Hey, what is up, guys? Blunt Guts here. This is a Watch Our Realms video. Thank you so much for tuning into my channel. I appreciate it. Please do like and subscribe if you do enjoy my content. So I am doing a series of damage tests on Myca on the test server right now, and I've got some awesome results that I am interested in sharing with you. Myca, of course, if you do not know, is the upcoming permanent fusion that is going to be added into the game. I believe it will be on Monday, June 17th is I think when it's going live. I believe it's going live with this patch that is coming. So very exciting stuff. Super excited by the hero. Let's take a look at her kit, and then I'll get into the testing that I did. All right, so we're just going to do a quick read through of her skills here. So she is a marksman, if you didn't know. I do have her ranked up to A5 right now, but the test that I did at various awakening levels, A0, A1, A3, and A5. And I did compare her to an A5 Silas just for a point of reference. She does have quite good gear. The gear that is on Silas is very similar to the gear that is on Myca. So let's break down her kit real quick. So her talent triggers Blazing Plume. Let's take a look at that. Deals 50% magic damage 3 times and inflicts burning for 5 seconds. Awesome. For every 4 basic attacks. So every 4 basic attacks, she is going to trigger this Blazing Plume. When Blazing Plume hits an enemy inflicted with burning, there is a 50% chance to trigger Conflagration. So Conflagration deals 300% magic damage. Each burning inflicted on the target increases Conflagration's damage by 10% up to 70%. Now, I'm assuming that the way that this works is that it is not 10% of this 300%. It's going to be additive, so it will be 310% with 1 stack of burning, 320% with 2 stacks of burning, and so on and so forth until the max stacks at 370% damage when there are 7 stacks of burning on the target. So that's how I believe that this skill works. Let's take a look at her ultimate here. So when activated, ignores 50% of the enemy's defense. The number of basic attacks required for triggering Blazing Plume reduces by 2, so it cuts it in half from 4 to 2. This effect lasts for 30 seconds. That is fully skilled up. So you get a 10% defense penetration increase when you do skill her up. You also get 5 seconds onto the duration, making it 30 seconds instead of 25 seconds. And you get minus 100 on the skill cost, meaning that you come out with a 800 cost ultimate, which is pretty awesome. Definitely very manageable, not on the higher end, which I love to see. Her basic attack deals 120% magic damage to 1 enemy. That's pretty standard. That is fully skilled up. It is 100% base. Incendiary Rage, her first passive, every time Blazing Plume, and again, Blazing Plume is 50% magic damage 3 times, so 150% magic damage and burning on top of that. So every time Blazing Plume is triggered, increases crit damage by 12%, stacking up to 5 times. So I think base, it is, 7%, I believe? So you're going to get another 5% on top of that when you do have her fully skilled up, putting it 12, meaning that when you have the 5 stacks, you can max that out. You are going to get a 60% crit damage increase on her. During the ultimate, the crit damage increase is doubled, so it'll be 120% at max skill ups when you are in the ultimate, and all stacks are removed after the ultimate ends, so everything's going to reset. So they're kind of cool. She builds up her damage, gets a damage increase in the ultimate, and then she loses her stacks and you have to start all over again, but it is cool to have that cyclical thing going on. Finally, her other passive deals 50% increased damage to enemies with shield. I do think that this is going to be most relevant in the guild boss. I don't know that there's another place in the game where this is particularly relevant, although I guess one place would be in the Infernal Faction Trial. So if you are still trying to beat this, then this is going to be a hero that could potentially help you, particularly if you don't have Cetron, who's another hero who does increased damage to shielded targets. So that's something certainly to keep in mind. Really cool kit. I do like the way that this works. There is a bit of RNG in here, primarily with this Conflagration skill. There's a 50% chance to trigger it. Obviously, it's a pretty significant bit of damage there, depending on the number of burning stacks that you do have that on the target. It's going to be 300 to 370% magic damage. So on a coin flip, it should average out over time. I mean, you could probably have that and get the results. So if it's 300, you get 150% damage consistently. If it's 370, you would be up at 185% damage consistently, just removing the RNG there. But that is what I observed in my damage tests. It did seem like there was a bit of a swing depending on how lucky you might get with these conflagration. Wow, I can't say that. With these conflagration procs. So let's take a look at her awakenings real quick. So the A1, when attacking enemies with shield, increases attack speed by 150 for 5 seconds. I don't love this, honestly. I mean, I guess she is kind of a shield specialist, so that is something to kind of keep in mind. She is going to get some added bonuses based on whether or not she's attacking somebody with a shield. However, given that this is such a limited use, I don't love that this is on the A1. I feel like this is something that maybe could have been rolled into her kit instead. But then again, maybe you're only going to be bringing her in when you are trying to deal with enemies that do have shields on them. So limited use at the end of the day. A2 is pretty standard, plus 300 to her base attack. Obviously, that is going to be magnified by the amount of attack percent gear that you do have on her kit. Excuse me, not on her kit, on her gear. A3 is a complete waste. And this is just, I couldn't believe that this was the A3 when I saw it. Conflagration guarantees a crit hit. Who's not building her with 100% crit rate anyway? So, I mean, I guess you could make the argument that you could stack more damage stats and then not put crit on her, but given that, I don't know, you know, I guess maybe further testing might be required to see if that makes any sense. I don't really think it's going to at the end of the day, though, because you're basically sacrificing all of her non-conflagration damage in order to boost that one particular bit. So I don't know. It doesn't really make any sense to me. Penetration plus 5%. I love that. I don't know why it's not 8%. Typically when we see these on the A4, it is 8%. So I'm not sure why she only gets 5. Maybe because she's free. We can't get nice things when they're free. And then finally, A5, during the ultimate, the trigger chance of conflagration increases to 100%. This one is huge, and based on my testing, this is by far the biggest awakening for her. I mean, it makes sense. It's on the A5, so I guess that's appropriate. It does suck that you have to pull her 5 times after you fuse her in order to get that, though. So that is unfortunate, but this is by far the single biggest increase to her damage. I was talking before about the RNG that is kind of inherent in this conflagration skill. This removes that completely. So you are always going to get conflagration, which means you're basically doubling the damage because it's a 50-50 proc otherwise. So with that said, let's get to the testing. I'll show you how I broke this down. So before we get into the damage testing here, I do want to show you the gear that I did have both Silas and her in, just so you have full disclosure. It is really good gear. I did want to test her in such a way that we could take a look at what an endgame build would look like for her, and I wanted to have solidly endgame gear on her. Now, one thing I will note, I've got her geared similarly to Silas, and I was testing her on the guild boss, so she is in gear that is definitely more slanted towards high crit damage than it is high attack. It's not bad attack. She's got about 200% or plus 200% attack on her. Silas is similar. However, you could certainly stack more attack on her if you really wanted to. I did this largely because I wanted to create as close to a one-to-one comparison in the DPS sets as I possibly could. So this is as close as I could get with the gear that I did have on my A5 Silas on the test realm. So a couple things to note. I don't have any bonuses in the Pantheon, so like this 43.5% rage regen here may as well be 0 because you're going to get close to that on global servers if you do have any points invested into the Pantheon as well. So that's something to keep in mind for sure. I do think that you know, while the gear is quite good, it's not anything that is unreasonably good. Granted, I have an endgame account, but I could recreate a very similar build with the gear that I do have on my account on Global. I know that many people may not have access to this gear, but when you are considering how this hero stacks up, I think it's important to look at kind of what they look like in good gear at the end of the day, because that's what we should all be working towards when we are making these decisions as far as like what we're going to invest our resources in for our accounts. We should be doing it with the eye of what the hero can become, not what they will be right now. That's my personal perspective. I'm sure there's other testing out there that's going to have her in more modest gear, but that's not what I'm doing here. So this is about her potential, not about what she might look like with subpar gear. And there's so much variation when you get below this kind of end game gearing level that I feel like it's important to look at kind of what it looks like at the top, and then you can work your way back down, because we should all be building towards this level of gear. Finally, let's look at Silas here. So similar gear here, a little bit more crit damage. Rage Regen is in the same spot, but again, Pantheon bonus is non-existent on this account, so that is significantly lower than what it looks like based on what you'll actually be getting on global. Similar attack speed. Looks like Silas has a little bit less attack than she does, but on the whole, roughly equivalent gear, and that was what I was shooting for here. So with that said, let's get into the testing. All right, so for the first test, what I did was drop both Myca and Silas into the Nightmare 1 guild boss. I then dropped in Vortex just to keep them alive. I turned on the auto cast on the ultimates, and then I just let the run out. I did 3 tests each at each awakening level, at A0, at A1, at A3, and at A5 for Myca. I recorded my results. I produced an average. I'm going to show you the results after this, but first, let's take a look at the run. right, guys, you have seen the fight. Let's talk about the results here. And the results are pretty staggering. What we are seeing here is that there is a range of 34.7 million to 36.7 million going from A0 to A3. That ultimately means that you're getting a 3.2% boost on average going from A0 to A1. Going from A0 to A3 is an almost 6% boost in damage, so not that big of a difference. However, getting her to A5 means that you are getting a 37% increase to her damage. That is all due to the fact that you are removing the RNG from the conflagration buff, proc, excuse me. So that is massive. That is a really big damage boost. It seriously ups her competitiveness with other heroes. However, you do need to get her to A5 in order to make that happen. The one thing that is kind of nice about it is that means that A0 through A4 are roughly equivalent, and you don't need to feel like you're missing out on much by only having her A0. That is kind of nice. I'm always looking for the silver linings there. If we were going to compare her to the A5 Silas as I had in this test, A5 Silas on average was doing 54,956,000 over the course of the run. You can see the results are pretty similar to what I was just describing. We've got a range of 63.1% at A0 to 66.8% of Silas's damage at A3, so not a big difference there. However, at A5, she does jump up to 86.4% of A5 Silas's damage. I think this is great. You know, we don't have any buffs here, so it's not really, it's just a raw damage test. There's no supporting cast heroes in here. I think that things are going to change when we do look at that. However, what this means is that, you know, she does good damage and she is free. So, I mean, we're not going to complain about that. Good damage, solid hero. Not Silas, but did we really expect her to be? I didn't personally, but I'm pretty happy with these results. However, let's go to a full guild boss team. We're going to compare the same two heroes, so A5 Silas to Myca at all these different awakening levels. We're going to see the results and see what impact bringing in buffs like Rage Regen, buffs like Inspiration are going to have on the ultimate results. So now you've seen the heads up between Myca and Silas. After that, I did want to bring her into a full guild boss team and see how her damage stacks up when we are giving her a bunch of other supporting buffs, such as Dolores' Inspiration, Rage Regen from Laurel, from Leia, from Hollow. All of these things are going to enhance her damage, but how much are they going to enhance her damage? And are they going to maintain that disparity that we saw between A5 Silas and Myca at her various awakenings? Or is the gap going to narrow or expand? We're going to take a look and see. I'm going to show you the run, and then I'll be back afterwards to discuss the results. All right, so now you have seen the full run there. Again, just like with the previous testing, I did 3 auto runs of that team on each of the different awakening levels for Myca, and here are the results that we got. You see, there is a bigger spread here than there was otherwise. So we've got A0 on average was doing 71 million damage. That is nothing to be complaining about. That is pretty damn solid for a free hero at A0. Granted, very good gear, very good supporting cast heroes, so that should be taken into account. At A1, you are getting a 3.2% damage increase. It should be noted that the A1 does have to do with the shield, and you're not getting any of the shield damage incorporated into those damage statistics at the end of the day. So this could be a little bit misleading. She may be getting more of a boost, and certainly you could make the argument that the boost to her attack speed when she's attacking shields is helping you burn through the shields faster, therefore making your comp stronger. So that's something that should be considered. The A3, we are seeing a 12.7% increase on average. That's a little larger than I would have thought it would have been based on the other testing. However, I guess at the end of the day, that extra 300 attack, when coupled with the boost that we are getting from Leia, from Hollow, from Dolores, not to mention the inspiration buff, is producing a higher result. So it's all these things are kind of snowballing to make it more impactful when she is in a full team. And then we are seeing a 33% increase over A0 when she is at A5, which is another massive jump, similar to what we saw in the previous test that I ran. If you want to look at Silas's damage on average, he was on average doing 157,819,000 damage per run. Now, that means that at A0, she was doing 45% of his damage, at A1, 46% of his damage, at A3, 51%, and then finally at A5, 60%. So what you see is that Silas is actually benefiting a lot more from the supporting cast heroes in this game mode. I think that that's not all that surprising at the end of the day, and I don't know that we really need another Silas in the game, so it is what it is. I am still impressed with Myca. I still think that many developing accounts, many accounts that are not all the way at the end game, that are not doing 50k blood on the guild boss, are really going to benefit from having Myca on the team. And in fact, you wouldn't really be replacing Silas with her. You'd probably be replacing a Setram. And I can say from personal experience, having an A1 Setram on my account, this damage is very, very comparable to what I see on global with my Setram. So I would not be surprised if they are roughly equivalent at the end of the day. All right, guys, so there you have it. I think that these tests really reveal that Myca is going to be a solid hero in this game. I think she does have a lot of functionality in different areas. I think largely, though, her best area is going to be the guild boss or any place else in the game where we are going to be doing a lot of single target damage. That is going to be her strength. She is not a Silas, but she does bring some utility that Silas doesn't, in the form of burning, in the form of her increased damage to shields. And the other thing that is, I guess, kind of a double-edged sword is that A0 through A4, the damage difference is not all that significant. However, at A5, she does get a significant boost. It is nice to see that if you are lucky enough to pull an extra, good God, 5 copies of her, you are going to be getting a significant bonus at the end of the day. Just to summarize, in case you did not watch the rest of the video and you just skipped to the conclusions, what I found was that when no buffs were involved, she was doing approximately 65% of A5 Silas's damage when she is A0 to A4. When she does get to A5, she's doing about 87% of his damage. Now, when you bring her into a team, when you're bringing in Inspiration, Rage Regen, that kind of thing, she's doing a little less than half of A5 Silas's damage up until A5, and then at A5, she is getting a massive boost, and she's doing about 60% of his damage. The reason that A5 is such a big jump is because of this conflagration skill. The A5 does give her 100% chance to trigger that when she triggers Blazing Plume there. So outside of the ultimate, that's every 4 attacks. Inside the ultimate, when it is active, she's doing it every 2 attacks, and she should be getting 300 to 370% magic damage each time. Going from a 50-50 chance for that to trigger versus a 100% chance for it to trigger is very, very big for her overall damage. So that is why there's such a huge disparity at that point. But, you know, I think that this is exciting because I do think she is going to be a good hero. I think she's going to be useful for a lot of accounts that are not progressed. I think if you are trying to get over the hump to get to 50k blood, she is going to be a big help to you. Also, Infernal Faction Trials, one of the, I'd say, most roster and gear dependent faction trials in the game, is going to be a lot easier with her on your squad. So in any case, guys, thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please do leave me a comment. Let me know if there was anything else you would have liked to see, if anything I could have done better. I did try to do what I think is a raw damage test, or at least as close to a raw damage test as is possible in this game. Granted, there's just so many different situational uses for heroes in here, and the enemies that they're attacking, plus the different, I guess, uptime that they're going to have. All these different things do kind of play into how effective a hero is going to be. So I don't know that there is a comprehensive test that I could do. So this was the best I thought I could find to give you an idea of the hero's power level. But if you'd like to critique me and let me know what I could have done better, please do. Thank you all so much for watching. Please do like and subscribe. Catch you all next time.